Chapter 821. If I could hear Tao in the morning, I may die in the evening without regret. Faction Master. What should we do? Elder Xuanhuan looked at Faction Master Feng Zhu and asked. At this moment, the Xuanhuan ancestral master and people from other major factions also stood up. Seniors, what do you think? Even the heavenly faction master must show respect to seniors like the Xuanhuan ancestral master. Feng Zhu bowed slightly and asked them. Everyone looked grim. This isn't a small issue. They exchanged a look. They had never looked so grim before. The Xuanhuan ancestral master looked at the people of heavenly faction and said, "Tell us what happened," without omitting any details. Soon, these people told them the details of what happened to Elder Feng Yan, who was guarding the back mountain and the ancestral master's shrine. The black-robed Elder Duke Xiao from the heavenly faction said angrily, "We've worshipped these immortals for generations in the past thousands of years with incense sticks. Our faction was in the danger of collapse several times and had to be on guard of the invasions from the godly palaces from the west continent. However, we received no protection from these immortals. Despite the death of our elders and faction masters, we managed to survive. We just treated them as if they didn't exist. But now..." Elder Duke Xiao sneered. "The moment that our heavenly faction obtained some progress, they begin to threaten us and give us pressure. Yuck, they just don't want us to progress." But the white-robed Elder Xuanhuan sighed. "The thing is that we are no match for them. Fighting those existences is like hitting a rock with an egg. We must think carefully." The Xuanhuan ancestral master, Duke Yi, and others exchanged a look and squinted their eyes. Meanwhile, in shops like the one in Jua City and Half City Dash, the cultivators and warriors obviously had also received the same message. That Xi faction master, the leader of one of the three saint factions, sat in the grand hall in the faction and felt dejected. It has been so many years. The old Taoist dressed in a purple robe looked at the dark sky out of the hall with a lost expression. The dark sky looked as if a destructive catastrophe was brewing. He couldn't help but wonder if the gods would get so angry that they would turn the mortal world upside down. I had dreamed of seeing an immortal. Today, I finally got my wish. But he had never looked so melancholic and lost before. Even he, a famous major faction master, sat on this couch in a daze with coldness in his heart. Stay away from them and forget the past. This is the only way that you can still live. These words were tossed out casually. To forget certain things meant that they would return to their previous state. Faction Master. Beside him, elder disciple Ling Wanyin tried to speak but didn't know what to say. Yes, in the shop, they were not as powerful as those experienced old players. Maybe they were just insignificant figures here. At this moment, Ling Wanyin felt like an ant that would be turned to dust by one casual trample of the huge ancient ship full of immortals and gods. Others might have a little bit more confidence with prizes from the shop. Yes, facing such existences, these people only had a little bit of confidence. However, people from other factions such as Ling Wanyin had no confidence at all. Perhaps a small voice whispered from within, "Let's back off this time. After all, they are true immortals. Not the weak demons or monsters that we had faced in the past. The place where these existences stand is the destination that we have dreamed about." The only compromise that they needed to make was forgetting some unrealistic dreams they shouldn't have harbored and living as they had lived before. Incarnate Cliff Dash. They will remain alive by paying such a small price. I think they know what to choose. In the distant peak in the void, immortal clouds surged up in the innumerable immortal sea while the clouds beyond the sky looked as radiant as silk. There was an extremely magnificent immortal palace hovering high in the air. Standing in the great hall of the palace, Gui Yi told the immortals around him with conviction. But this was the last memory that they wanted to lose. In here, I witnessed vast worlds that I'd never dared to imagine. In here, I realized the true meaning of being a cultivator. There are many other things here I've learned. Faction Master. The purple-robed old man stood up slowly. Wanyin, His face seemed to have aged even more, but his turbid eyes turned brighter. I remember a saying, "If I could hear Tao in the morning, I may die in the evening without regret." My memory isn't good. Do you remember this saying? Yes. The most outstanding disciple of the Xi faction bowed and answered, "It's from the Liren chapter of the Analects of Confucius. It's a book that records the words and deeds of an ancient saint." While supporting himself with an ebony walking cane, the faction master walked to the front of the hall with Xuanhuan's help. Suddenly, a hot white lightning bolt exploded on the square before him, and thunder resonated in the sky. Many low-level disciples hid in their rooms and shivered. Today, I think I'm such a person who just heard Tao. His slightly bent figure stood straight under the lightning bolts flashing in the sky. While pointing at the sky, he said, "Perhaps I'd rather die for it." Boom. The winds howled while thunderbolts danced wildly, illuminating this cultivator who stood tall and proud between the sky and the land. It seemed like the flashes of lightning were engraving the soul of this cultivator, who had spent all his life on the pursuit of Tao, into the sky. City shop to stay away from the shop. The old cultivators from the Ui Taoist Alliance in the City shop looked out of the shop. At this moment, the low-level cultivators and warriors didn't even dare to venture out, but there were still many people in the shop. There were people who would look calm even if Tai Mountain collapsed before them. Immortals, tribulations, we're not afraid. Nalan Hongwu said coldly. They think that we don't dare to do anything even if they unleash godly punishment. In the half-city shop, demonic woman Ningbai revealed the intense murderous spirit that she had never shown in the shop. Like a prehistoric major demon, she showed her chilly fangs. There's nothing to be afraid of. In the Yuan Yang City shop, Gatinian said chillily, "If you dare to touch 1 inch of the mortal land." On the shore of the heavenly abyss sea, the two black figures revealed their chilly gazes. "We'll make you repay 100-fold. On Sanfan Field in wind and cloud, the old sword saint showed people the unyielding spine of a swordsman. With his sword spirit that even the world and the fate couldn't distinguish, he unleashed that dazzling sword strike named Sword 23. When the Xuanhuan faction fell from the sky in the Legend of Sword and Legend 4, only the young man who took control of his fate from the heavens could create the miracle of shooting down Xuanhuan with 1 arrow. Although those things were in the past, they had obtained courage from these memories. They lifted their heads and stood tall. This world witnessed their growth of not only strength but the vision and courage which were the integral parts of cultivators and warriors. Chapter 822, Trailer of Wrath of the Lich King, and Countdown of Journey to the West and the Beginning of the New Era. System Upgrade Progress, 45%. At this moment, Fang Qi received a message from the system. Task, Challengers Tutorial School, Intermediate. Task Target, 1. Help the mole students become masters. 2. Help 80% of the students reach Grandmaster level, battle skills. 3. Help the best students become challengers. Completeness, 165%, 233%, 30%. Task Reward, the Soul of Cinder 1, System Upgrade Big Gift Bag 1, 5-day access to the new upgraded System Cultivation Room. Synchronization Pendant Upgrade, after upgrading, it can store energy. The limit of stored energy is broken down into 10 levels, and 10,000 magic crystals will be the equivalent of 1 level. Each level can be used to reduce the synchronization percentage requirement and increase synchronization time. Mr. Fang got the synchronization pendant when he first received the game Cultivation Room. It was used as a medium between the Cultivation Room and the game characters. Mr. Fang looked at the pendant dangling before his chest and wondered, this was also upgraded? Besides the upgrading of the pendant, he saw more new content. Dungeon Fighter Online's new expansion is updated. Host can choose a date to release it. World of Warcraft's new expansion, Wrath of the Lich King, has begun its promotion process. The cinematic trailer of Wrath of the Lich King has been released. The journey to the west is 95% complete and will be done in 3 days. The countdown begins. Wukong, the Monkey King, champion gift bag in League of Legends will be released in 1 week. The promotion will begin in 3 days. While the system is upgrading, the host must manage the shops well and keep things in order. The initial upgrade is completed. Fang Chi looked at the system interface in pleasant surprise and with expectation. As the promotion of the new expansion of World of Warcraft began, another horrifying godly weapon, Frostmourne, began to reveal a part of its horrifying power. In the Kanglan City shop. The trailer for the new expansion of World of Warcraft. As local knights in Kanglan City, the Knights of the Golden Griffin Knight Legion came to the internet cafe each day regardless of what happened. Today, they came to the shop each holding an umbrella. The moment that they sat down, they saw a QQ message popping out. Although the release time wasn't set yet, and many groups of players hadn't seen Illidan in the current expansion yet, let alone the Warblades of Azimuth, not everyone was a fan of PvE, and not every player craved for these things. However, every World of Warcraft player knew about the storyline, which meant that they could still watch the trailer of the new expansion despite their slow progress in the game. Right now, the Lich King was a distant legend for the World of Warcraft players. Only the players of the small game, Warcraft, Inkzone knew that the Lich King brought them the same horror and suppression as the 3 destructive demon lords in Diablo 2. The horrifying spirit energy that could erode the minds of ultimate masters was especially creepy. What's this wrath of the Lich King? The Knights of the Golden Griffin Knight Legion and the elves who had just entered the shop immediately watched it. Nearby, Streetelden and Streetwilly, who had just opened Diablo 2, also looked over. This game was one of the games that they had obtained during the promotion activity of buy 10 and get 1 free in the shop. It was one of their favorite games, and they played many games such as Dark Souls, Diablo, League of Legends, and World of Warcraft. Although the Saint-level masters were more interested in the first 3 games and picked 2 of them to be their main games, they were also interested in the story of World of Warcraft. Immediately, they began to watch it. In the chilly ice which had been frozen for countless years was the vague shape of an ice-sealed throne. In the chilly ice that had been frozen for countless years, one could see the cold armor with black metal glares and the figure sitting on its eternal throne. On its right-hand side stood a silverish grey 2-handed greatsword that had a special shape. Frostmourne was the godly weapon that was forged by demons and contained the great evil power of the Lich King. The goat demon head engraved on the crossguard and the strange and mysterious runes on the body of the sword gave people a strong sense of its evil power. At this moment, gloomy blue flames leapt up in the dark holes inside the armor. Then, the eyes lit up. Before them was a wasteland covered in ice and snow. There was no life or anything signaling the existence of life. When the accumulated snow was brushed away, the ice underground, which contained endless frost that had accumulated for many years, began to crack. Bone Dragon? While the viewers exclaimed, the most horrifying undead legion in the world spread all over the mountains and fields. Meanwhile, in the Xuanhuan City shop. It's said that Dungeon Fighter Online's new expansion is releasing today. The people from the Ultimate West Realm were still playing Dungeon Fighter Online. They had tried other games, but this was their favorite. Of course, streamers such as the Blacklight Sword Saint, who had become famous due to Dungeon Fighter Online, didn't forget this game. After graduating from the old expansion, they had gradually decreased their time in the game. When they heard about a new expansion, which was said to be an unprecedented major expansion, was going to be released, they returned to the game immediately. On the other side, others such as Nalan Mengsu and Song Qingfeng found that their wish had come true. A new expansion had indeed come out. Should we enter the game and check it out? Song Qingfeng asked. Although it was an old game, they had many memories about it. King's Ruin, Screaming Cavern, and the Vilmark, Area 50 with the mechanical bull. They wondered what happened to the elf girl named Syria whom they had rescued. Besides, The new expansion would open the second awakening, and it was worth a try. Anyway, I don't have matches today and can take a break. Nal and Mingsu logged into the game cheerfully. Say. Song Qingfeng looked up at the sky outside the shops subconsciously and said worriedly, "Are we really in trouble? Those immortals and gods, I wonder how powerful they really are, will they? Perhaps those existences could destroy this world with a wave of their hands. Don't think about things that you can't control." Nalan Mingsu looked at her screen and saw her level that stopped at 70. After clicking open her friend list, she found that most of them had turned grey, but some of them were still online. A private message popped out. Sire whispered, "Yeah, you're online? FCK, what are these new sets of equipment?" Song Qingfeng watched as Nalan Mingsu chose to browse the equipment and found that Sire was wearing some equipment that they never seen before. "They look awesome." "Yeah, I came back to have a look." Nalan Mingsu still remembered that these people who had lived in the bitter cold Big Snow Mountains naively claimed to guard this beautiful continent. She replied quickly, "I wonder what is going to happen in the new expansion that is about to be released today." Ha ha. The Arad continent was still beautiful and vibrant, not losing any glory and glamour due to the departure of any players. The streets of Hendon Maya and the west coast looked the same as they had been. In the forest, the elf bard played light music, looking relaxed. Suddenly, as if sensing something, he looked up at the sky involuntarily. At this moment, countless players all looked up at the sky without thinking. Countless birds flew out from the beautiful jade-green forests surrounding Hendon Maya. There were so many of them that they looked like black surging floods. Alarmed, they left their nests where they had lived in peace for countless years and flew to the distance. Or more accurately, they fled. The black sky and black birds drew a sharp contrast with the snow-white Hendon Maya, a miracle in the desert. The nightly breeze blew by and seemed to be singing a sad eulogy for Hendon Maya. Countless adventurers walked out from the taverns and dojos onto the streets. Looking up at the sky, they seemed to sense that an unimaginable big event would happen in this world. Chapter 823, Destruction Era. When the players first started the game, it was a relatively peaceful game that didn't have fierce battles in cities as in The Legend of Mir 2 or encounters between the opposing factions as in World of Warcraft. There were only battles of wits and courage in the Shadow Thunderland. From that bright blue storm pass covered in white snow, they stumbled their way to Empyrean and then Pandemonium. It was an uneventful story of adventures. But their peaceful life was turned upside down in this instant. On their way to Empyrean and Pandemonium, the adventurers increased their strength continuously and began to understand some of the cause in this world. At the beginning of the universe, everything was chaotic. One day, a great will appeared and created everything including the Arad continent, and his power illuminated this land. He gradually gained a name, Origin Light, Carloso. When there is light, there is darkness. When the world was created, darkness also fell in this endless universe. Accidentally, it was turned into 12 powerful gods by the powerful people of Terra. They could be called gods, Bellatrixes, or apostles. However, light was opposite to darkness, and a war finally broke out between them and destroyed everything. After Carloso was defeated, the 12 powerful existences only had awareness left in them and drifted in the endless universe again. This was the beginning of the entire Arad continent. The origin and the creator of the world was defeated, and the tens of thousands of laws in the universe were broken. That was why the Arad continent had such strange phenomena, including weird transfers and the endless appearances of abyss demons coming from alternate dimensions. At this moment, countless players were looking up at the chaotic sky above Hendon Maya and the west coast. The depths of this void was at a location in another dimension. The whole space rotated around this center while countless dimensional fragments began to gather under the suction of this force. Not only the oasis-like and beautiful Hendon Maya, but the whole Arad continent began to turn desolate. More and more people noticed the weird phenomenon in the sky, and they stared at it, forgetting whatever they had been doing. For an unknown reason, they had an ominous feeling in their minds. In that unknown dimension, a confused warrior walked over slowly. No one knew where he came from. At this moment, nebulas spun in his chest as if a mini-universe was hidden in it. In the shadow under light, they seemed to see the creator of this world in the depths of the universe. In the light and flames, the most magnificent figure in the universe condensed slowly before this confused warrior. Dressed in a holy golden battle robe, this figure had a halo, which represented the beginning of the world, behind his head while his figure began to gather and solidify. Then, he reached out his arm toward the mysterious warrior. When their hands touched, a radiant golden light beam turned everything around them golden. Carloso had once disintegrated into countless shadows and disappeared. Now, these shadows began to solidify behind him with dazzling golden and holy lights. Like the countless shadow doppelgangers, the warrior before Carloso was the last shadow doppelganger, and he finally returned. Streaks of golden light rotated and shone on this desolate alternate dimension. The energy, perhaps the most powerful in the universe and had once scattered in different places, now combined into one. While the energy gathered, a part of it spilled out during the process. The golden lightning bolts and white-hot energy beams spilling out were insignificant to Carloso, but they violently spread out from this dimension like countless huge ancient dragons that were running wild. Then, the space cracked. Among the countless rolling mountains, countless starlights gathered in one spot and then exploded violently. A beam of lightning energy pierced the sky that was covered in dark clouds. A hole appeared in the sky as if it got penetrated, and people could see the dazzling river of stars in the endless starry sky. Even the river of stars lost its color when this bright beam appeared. The horrifying energy instantly squeezed out everything including air, lightning bolts, gusts, and trees. Pushed by this horrifying energy, everything in the world spread out like surging ocean waves like a destructive light shield. The land cracked, and giant pieces were pushed up and formed tall cliffs before shattering. The seemingly endless energy spread out in great waves with explosive force. Look over there. The Ultimate West Realm players in Hendenmeyer pointed at the other end of the world and said in horror. Countless people heard his yell and looked over. What a sight they saw! A lightning bolt connected the sky and the earth. With lights that seemed to come from the endless chaos, everything exploded in the distant horizon. The streak of extremely horrifying energy expanded at a visible speed. Instantly, it grew as high as the sky and continued to enlarge. Even from the distance, they could still sense the tremendous force of that energy. What's that? Saya pointed at the distance in horror and yelled. Beside her, Gabriel and Liu Pieling also looked over. Countless players who were online also turned their gazes over. What's that? What's happening over there? What's up? All the people in the city and the neighboring cities were yelling as they watched the energy, containing turbid gusts, rainstorms, thunder, lightning bolts, and even mountains, sweeping across every corner of the world between the sky to the land. It had turned into a horrifying destructive light wall. It had been far away when people spotted it, however, when they reacted, they could already hear the howls of winds, the roars of the thunder and the land, and surging ocean waves. When they tried to do something subconsciously, everything was shattered ranging from the distant high mountains to the snow-white west coast port and the miraculous sky tower leading to Empyrean. The land behind them would be the next to be turned into dust in this catastrophe. At this moment, the bold promises that the players had made when they first stepped onto this continent echoed in their minds. This beautiful continent was a part of their youthful dream. Ultimate Slay, Tempest, Ghost 7, Furious Black, Extreme Overkill. One by one, the names of these powerful skills. Their hoarse roars in prior battles flashed across their minds. A sword may conquer the flesh, but only your heart may conquer the mind. The core principle of martial arts is to become one with nature. Their trainers' teachings echoed in their ears. Liu Pieling. Saya pulled on the sleeve of the warrior standing beside her. Vaguely, They remembered that these so-called barbarians who had lived in the big snow mountains had been fascinated by this beautiful world at first glance. They had once playfully promised that if one day, someone tried to destroy this world, they would fight to the death without any regrets. Tempest. They saw a figure charging at the destructive light wall. In the darkness, countless lights flashed as the surrounding space was shattered. However, in the next moment, everything including the person who used this skill was swallowed by this horrifying energy. Extreme overkill, Gabriel yelled hoarsely and charged forward like a madman. Then, his whole body, together with the once unrivaled sword energy, turned into dust. Blood mist sprayed around like a shower. Ghost 7, Furious Black. Everything was swallowed. Everything on the continent where the warriors had adventured on and guarded together was destroyed. Chapter 824, As the shop owner, I can only give you this advice. Countless people who were online in the game had seen the beauty of this place and experienced lots of leisure and fun times here. They also witnessed its destruction. Of course, not everyone died in a catastrophe. In the horrifying energy explosion, time and space started to distort. Some of them snapped back to their senses and found that they were on another continent. There were many familiar faces, but many things were different. For example, the place where they were standing was Underfoot Town instead of Hendon Maya. Yes, it was the Underfoot Town where the Headless Knight guarded the gate. They even saw the male Slayer trainer, the blind old man named GSD, but this was the place where they had fought countless monsters. What was more, everything was in the opposite position. Storm Pass had been to the west of Underfoot Town, but now it was located to the east and had turned into a desolate ice cliff. The Sky Rift to the north of Underfoot Town was now to the south of this world. In the ruined Sky Rift, a waterfall appeared, and it flowed upward instead of downward. They seemed to be in another world in which everything was the mirror image of the original world. It was an astonishing change. Some people call this the Great Transfer, after which time and space were distorted while the events in the past and in the future were turned upside down. Some people survived the huge catastrophe and were transferred by the distorted time-space continuum into another continent which was similar to but different from the previous one. Some people were turned into dust with the old continent. At this moment, everyone's minds turned blank in disbelief. With vague speculations, many people began to accept the fact after some time. In the Kanglan City shop, Salah and other elves were talking. I heard that the so-called Dungeon Fighter Online released a new expansion. Should we go and check it out? Why? Rowling asked in bafflement on the side. I heard that it has awesome scenery. Salah said happily, many people recommended it to us. Now that the new expansion is out, should we take this opportunity and check it out? Scenery? Elder Sewell looked over in surprise. Yeah, Salah said, people say that there's a sky tower which looks like a miraculous piece of architecture. Should we go and check it out? Okay. Hearing that there was good scenery, the elves were motivated. Dungeon Fighter Online seems to be a game that is free of charge. We can just enter and play. Let's go and try it. One elf said cheerfully. It was wonderful that they could view the scenery without paying for it. Then, they all entered the game. 1 hour later. With great efforts, they came into the new city. Like those warriors before them, they looked around curiously and felt like everything was new. Salah, where's Sky Tower that you mentioned? Rowling squatted down on the roadside in a huff. We've looked for it for so long and still can't find it. They told me that it's to the west of Hendon Maya. Salah looked at the city in bafflement. Maybe that person was exaggerating about the magnificence of the Sky Tower. Rowling said in displeasure. Let's ask someone about it. At this moment, Elder Sewell said this. Okay. Salah nodded and said, let's ask a veteran player. Look at that guy. He looks awesome with those great items. He must be a veteran player. Luo Bieling, who was doing quests to level up, saw a group of players walking toward him. Hello, How come we can't find Sky Tower? He was silent for a long time, seeing their sincere and expectant faces. He had a complicated expression on his face. He seemed to have lots to say, but whenever he opened his mouth, he was at a loss for words. With deep regret, he said after a long pause, "Sorry, we failed to protect Arad." Perhaps the stories of these adventures had ended here with that world. In Xuanhuan City Sir. At this moment, Mr. Fang was listening to songs while playing League of Legends. Suddenly, a voice message popped out from QQ. He clicked on it and was almost deafened by the yell from the message. "Who is it?" Mr. Fang looked at it in a bad mood. "Sire? When did I add her as a friend?" After some thinking, he remembered that she was the first customer who had deposited millions of crystals in her membership card as soon as she bought the card. It was normal for her to be on his friend list. "What's wrong?" Mr. Fang said sulkily. In the Xuanhuan city shop, a blonde woman cried her heart out with her head resting on the computer desk. "Our Arad continent exploded. Woo." She gestured at the screen to Mr. Fang and cried, "We were playing the game and doing window shopping. Then, it exploded. You see. Everything was fine a moment ago." Dungeon Fighter Online was the favorite game of the people from the Ultimate West realm. Of course, some other veteran players were also playing the game. They all looked at the shop owner with anger and bafflement. "Sir, what's happening?" Mr. Fang was confused, thinking, It's fine that you come to me when you don't understand the games or can't clear some stages. How come you are coming to me to protest the explosion of the Arad continent? As the shop owner, I can only give you this advice. Ignore those things." Mr. Fang clicked open the official website and said, "Look, the new expansion is about to be released. There's a Dungeon, the biggest dungeon in the history of Dungeon Fighter Online. There is also the second awakening." Sire looked toward the spot where Mr. Fang pointed. "Look," Mr. Fang continued, "on May 1st, we'll release the Labor Day's gift bag and new Labor Day fashion outfits with gift box. There is a high chance that you might get a pure golden amplification grimoire and amplification protection vouchers. It's not May 1st yet, but they are on pre-sale now." Amplify was an enhancement method stronger than reinforcement. As everyone knew, when the equipment reached level 10 reinforcement, any more reinforcement that ended in failure would break the equipment, and all the previous efforts would be wasted. Meanwhile, it was extremely difficult to acquire superior equipment in Dungeon Fighter Online. So, amplification protection vouchers? Sire looked at Mr. Fang's screen and saw not only amplification protection vouchers but items such as the Abyss Orb as well. They were all good items that were rarely seen. The most important was that there were no trash items in the gift bags, and the buyers were guaranteed to have rare items when they opened them. If it was true, then, Sire began to imagine herself equipped with sets of equipment amplified to level 14 or 15. In the past, she didn't even dare to think of it since any failure in reinforcement would destroy the equipment. The situation changed. Is this gift bag really so good? Sire looked at Mr. Fang with excitement and asked, "Huh?" Her gaze moved down and saw the promotion which offered more bonus rewards when buying more things with the upper limit set at 10 sets of gift bags. For example, if she bought 3 sets, she would get a level 80 superior chest of her own choice. If she bought 8 sets, she would get a random level 85 superior weapon chest, which is the current highest level. And if she bought 10 sets, she would get a unique title. Are these really free? With glinting eyes, she looked at Mr. Fang in amazement. Then, she got confused. These precious things sell for only about 200 crystals each. Aren't you going to lose money by giving out all these bonus rewards? Of course they are free. This is a special promotion to help adventurers challenge the more powerful monster, Apostle Anton. Apostle Anton? It must be noted that it was the previous forms of these apostles who had battled with Carloso, the god of creation. Although the game didn't elaborate on this part of the story, Many details showed that the wills of those 12 gods drifting into the depths of the universe were related to the apostles who were now on the top of the world. Would the god of creation who had destroyed Arad continent also enter a dungeon one day? I must work hard to get stronger. She had never looked so determined before. I have 7 characters, each account can buy 1 set. Which means that I need 3 more sets to get the most rewards. Maybe I shouldn't buy so many. No, I can't miss this opportunity to grow stronger. If I get stronger, one day, I will be able to battle Carloso. Instantly, she had a determined look on her face. I'll buy 10 sets. I'll take 6 sets. I'll buy 8 sets. I want to grow stronger. I'll buy 10 sets too. Carloso, you shall die. Instantly, the whole shop turned boisterous. Mr. Fang glanced at the system interface which showed, creation of Journey to the West is speeding up. The system upgrade is speeding up. Chapter 825 Monkey. Meanwhile, in the Kanglan City shop a monkey. The elves had entered Dungeon Fighter Online to see the scenery but saw none. Then, they each bought 2 to 3 gift bags. While feeling like they might not be able to guard the Arad continent without money, they were listening to Mr. Fang as he revealed the information about the new TV series. The Saint-level masters such as Gulth were among the people standing around Mr. Fang. They had heard that it was about a stone, and now it changed to a monkey. The problem was, what is there to see about a monkey? Not interested. With a wave of his claws, Gulth went back to play World of Warcraft. Right now, he was raiding an old instance, Blackwing Lair. He murmured to himself in a muffled deep voice, the dragon in this instance is very powerful, even though it's a bit outdated now, but I heard that its father, called something like Deathwing, is even more powerful. I think I might discuss what a catastrophe is with it. Monkeys are not interesting. The elves also complained, we don't want to watch this kind of TV series. As art-loving elves, they were fans of beauty to some degree. If the main character was good-looking, they would still watch despite the boring content. But monkeys. Then, they went back to play Dungeon Fighter Online. After all, as fans of scenery, if they didn't care about equipment, they could play any game including World of Warcraft and Dungeon Fighter Online. There's an elf class in this game too. We can enjoy the scenery in this game too. What are you playing? I'm playing as a rogue. It's said that this is a new class in this expansion. I'm playing as an elf knight, which seems to be a new class too. I'm playing as this Lightbringer. Huh? How come you can change into an elf, but I can't? Let's go and check out some good scenery. Although they didn't have money and thus couldn't protect the Arad continent, they still could dress beautifully and go out to enjoy the scenery that this world offered. With the expansion of Mr. Fang's shops, the games and TV series in the shop could be divided into 2 big categories and some smaller divisions due to the differences of the cultivation systems of the players. The 2 big categories were naturally divided according to the Oriental and Occidental systems in the games. For players from the East Continent and the Continent of Immortal Relics, TV series such as The Turbulent Homeland as well as games such as The Legend of Sword and Fairy and even Dungeon Fighter Online and The Legend of Mir 2 were more to their liking. It was why these games had more players from these continents. Of course, when these games were popular, there had been many players and viewers coming from the West Continent too. Likewise, the games such as Dark Souls, Assassin's Creed, and the old game Diablo 2, which had recently become popular in the West Continent, always had many fans in the Kanglan City shop. Even when the new expansion of World of Warcraft continued to gain popularity in different shops, many players such as those in the Continent of Immortal Relics still continued with their explorations in the world of Legend of Sword and Fairy, Dungeon Fighter Online, and The Legend of Mir 2. Likewise, when the viewers in the shops were stunned by the appearance of Cheat Andy in the Turbulent Homeland, many players in Kanglan City were quietly playing World of Warcraft or challenging the horrifying monsters in Dark Souls. Of course, Some were limited by their own talents. For example, some people with good talent could obtain inspirations from the ultimate godly techniques that were casually used by Chitandi in the turbulent homeland, but others would be better off trying other stuff. Some excelled in heavy weapons, some in magic spells, some in sword control technique, and some in the study of spiritual artifacts and machinery. Despite all this, some saint-level masters and many other players in the West continent were engrossed in the study of item combination in Diablo 2, trying to find the method to fight the last 3 Uber demon lords. Also, they searched for the countless secrets hidden in the world of Dark Souls. Lastly, with great efforts, they fought Illidan, the powerful demon coming from over 10,000 years ago in World of Warcraft. While understanding these great figures' stories in Warcraft, we all have our own favorite games and stories. In these touching stories, we have different beliefs and perspectives. Then, why should we play and watch the games and TV series which have different structures and power systems? Furthermore, the people of West Continent didn't even have enough time to play all the games and watch all the movies such as World of Warcraft, Dark Souls, StarCraft, Diablo, Final Fantasy, and Resident Evil after everything was released. They only had a vague idea about Xianxia and Yuxia, and few of them would spend much time to study them. It was so with average people and more so with higher-level existences, such insignificant and lowly creatures. Standing on the top of the endless godly mountains, the palace-like fortress had a layer of light snow on the walls, with golden pupils and a silver godly crown that was hovering above her head as if it was supported by a godly force. This woman's face looked like a statue made of white jade and oozed a casual and natural nobleness. Standing next to her was a man wearing 5-colored godly armor and looking as dazzling as the sun. Radiant light. TSK, TSK, the woman said mildly, I heard. The mortal nation under your control is in trouble again. The godly court has entrusted the whole issue to the innumerable immortal sea. The woman sneered and said, the god of radiant light judgment is nothing in their eyes. This man's face didn't show any emotion. In fact, it seemed like he had the urge to smirk. You underestimate me. Oh? The woman waited for him to continue. In my eyes, they're like a group of monkeys. The man wearing 5-colored godly armor had extremely handsome immortal features and an extremely dignified presence. Do we need to dirty our hands to deal with a group of monkeys living in the most primitive wasteland and playing the lowliest tricks? He looked cold, showing no emotion on his face as if he didn't feel any anger when he heard the woman's rude words. He didn't seem angry from the very beginning with the fact that he wasn't entrusted with the task to deal with a group of ridiculous monkeys. Monkeys, are they? The woman thought for a moment and seemed to remember the records about this kind of creature in the mortal world. Are they the animals in the mortal world that will do funny tricks for bananas? The woman on the side couldn't help but stifle a giggle. Hee. Yes, for these lofty existences, humans were just a group of monkeys in a cage. How much turbulence could the monkeys create anyway? Chapter 826, Water Curtain Cave in Flower Fruit Mountain, Monkey King, hiss, come and check this out. The official website of League of Legends has updated the big gift bag of a mysterious champion. It will be released 1 week later. What? We can finally buy that mysterious champion gift bag. I've saved for it for a long time now. I've been waiting for this new champion. How come it also looks like a monkey? The elves browsed the official website and exchanged a look when they saw the profile released on the website. Then, they sent messages to complain to Mr. Fang. Hey, sir, can the game pass on the monkey? Can you release another champion? At this moment, Xiaoyu also sent a complaining message. Boss, this monkey doesn't look awesome. Why don't you release another dragon? Don't we have a Dragon King already? Mr. Fang replied. Despite the Star Forger who was based on the Oriental dragons, this little girl was still unsatisfied. That one is super cool, hee. I think the shop should release a super powerful immortal. Elder Senior's sister Yuyin from the Heavenly Faction commented, "Every champion in League of Legends is powerful, but there aren't powerful immortals." You're right. The Heavenly Faction's eldest senior disciple, Zhuge Qinglong, also said, "The Shu Mountain faction in the Legend of Sword and Fairy is indeed powerful, and their ancestral master even ascended to become an immortal, but it mainly tells the story happening in the mortal world. Why doesn't it tell the story of their ancestral master? It would be awesome." The story of the Legend of Sword and Fairy is trying to express something different. Obviously a more observant player, Yuyin rolled her eyes at him. In the Geocity shop King. The shop will release The Journey to the West tomorrow. Are you going to watch it? Xuzixin asked while playing the new expansion of Dungeon Fighter Online. Not very interested. She caught herself halfway during speaking since she wanted to find out what Mr. Fang was up to. Chen Qingqing thought for a long moment. If the price is fair, I might try it. Anyway, we don't have any new releases of other TV series to look out for these couple of days. You have a point. On the other hand, Su Tanji was with her favorite disciples, Fengwu and Xin. Master, are you going to watch The Journey to the West tomorrow? Seeing that the TV series would be released tomorrow, Fengwu asked immediately. After all, they had many games to play and TV series to watch, so they must make good plans with their 10 hours of online time. They had no time for TV series that were not interesting. Besides, the most important and urgent issue they faced was that the mortal world was about to be struck with a catastrophe. Although they didn't know how horrifying the descending gods and immortals would be, they had seen the powers of Chitandi and Carloso. Frightened by those scenes, the players needed to use every moment they had to obtain more strength, thus having no time to watch an irrelevant TV series. Even though the elves, fans of beautiful scenery, entered Dungeon Fighter Online to view the world, they also had the plan to learn powerful skills after the second awakening. So, I wouldn't watch a monkey. Su Tanji caught herself halfway and thought for a moment. I think I will try it first, just try it. Even though the new TV series looked uninteresting, Mr. Fang had always been reliable, and so had the shop. As one of the earliest customers, Su Tanji would try the poison for the shop and the shop owner. Anyway, she might find this TV series tolerable. Although they couldn't imagine how a TV series with a monkey as the main character would be interesting, they thought that it didn't hurt to try. They had low expectations for it, but they would do it for the sake of friendship. After all, they had been in the shop for years. It was natural to return the favor. On the next day although some people including Xiaoyu, Su Tanji, Nalan Mingsu, and Gatinian had claimed that they wouldn't watch the TV series, in the Kanglan City shop, the elves, the members of the Night Legion, and the assassins of the Assassin Brotherhood asked upon entering the shop, "Sir, the new TV series was released today?" Huh? Dozing at the counter, Mr. Fang suddenly woke up and replied, "Didn't you say that you wouldn't watch it?" Regardless if it was good or not, these people would watch the new TV series to create momentum for it and make the shop owner happy. The elves had bought several Labor Day gift bags yesterday and heard that the bonus rewards were things the old players had been dreaming about but couldn't buy. We must be nice to the shop owner for that, right? Therefore, they came over to show their support. Of course, they couldn't admit it to the shop owner, otherwise, it would be humiliating for him to know that these people only watched his new TV series just to do him a favor. These groups of viewers denied, "We thought about it yesterday, and we think that this TV series is quite novel, We'll try it." As if they were afraid that the shop owner would see through their scheme, they trotted over to the computers with flushed faces. These people. Mr. Fang looked in the direction that they took off to and scratched his head in bafflement. Soon, some old customers in the old shops and some customers in the new shop began to watch Journey to the West either with a cup of cappuccino or a bowl of instant noodles. Hundun wasn't divided, and the world was in a mess. Everything was blurry, and no human could be seen. TL note: Hundun means primordial and central chaos in Chinese mythology. When Pang-u broke the dense Hundun apart, the pure and turbid could be distinguished from that moment on. TL note: Pang-u is the first living being and the creator of all in some versions of Chinese mythology. Every creature should be thankful to the world that birthed them, and Pang-u earned a lot of merits for creating all things in the world. If you want to know how the cycles of life work, you need to read The Journey to the West. Following Pang-u's construction of the world, the rule of the 3 sovereigns, and the laws of the 5 emperors, the world was divided into 4 great continents. There were the East Purvavadi continent, the West Uparagodaniya continent, the South Jambudvipa continent, and the North Uttarakuru continent. TL note: these are the 4 ancient continents in Chinese Buddhism. TL note: the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors were 2 groups of mythological rulers or deities in ancient northern China. The people in this world didn't know the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors, but the brief introduction summarized the ancient history of the whole world, including the different continents and the achievements of Pang-u as well as 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors. The scene before them showed a great ocean with surging waves and weird-shaped boulders on a sharp and strange cliff. Like an excellent painter, the story presented the key points of the entire history of the world and the vast universe to the viewers with only a few strokes. How is it? Is it good? Some people were watching while standing behind the viewers. They didn't have high hopes for this TV series but still felt curious. No one answered them. They were quietly appreciating the picturesque scenes before them. The story returned to the immortal mountain. On the mountain was an immortal stone, and on the stone were 9 perforations and 8 holes which corresponded to the 9 palaces and the 8 trigrams. Nourished by the essence of the sun and the moon, it gradually grew a spirit. After many years of nourishment, it split open one day and gave birth to a stone monkey. The elves covered their mouths with their hands while gasping, having never seen such a miracle before. The cultivators and warriors in Jia City were even more astonished. The beams of golden light shooting from its eyes even disturbed the celestial Jade Emperor in heaven. Then, the viewers watched as it leapt into the water curtain cave and received the loyalty of the other monkeys, becoming the Monkey King. The viewers exclaimed, "Is this really a monkey?" They recalled the trailer that they had watched and began to connect information such as the Flower Fruit Mountain and the Water Curtain Cave. Now looking at the Water Curtain Cave in the Flower Fruit Mountain, they felt like the Monkey King. FCK. Instantly, they felt like they had fallen into a deep pit. Where's the next episode? Is there more? Chapter 827. The Mountain of Mind and Heart. In the world where Fang Chi had come from, not only the people in the east but also those from the west would gasp as soon as they saw the trailer. But for the people in this world, they had only watched a few strange scenes before, so they certainly wouldn't have the same reaction as the people from Fang Chi's home world since they knew nothing about this story. Subconsciously, they thought that it was just a story about a monkey. Besides, the TV series sold for an outrageous price for each episode. But now, their thoughts gradually changed. How come? These monkeys are so smart. The elves felt amazed. Sudanji, Nalan Hongwu, and other people, who were the first group of viewers of The Journey to the West, watched the monkeys prostrate themselves before the Monkey King and appoint officials and ministers, forming order and a dynasty. The viewers were greatly entertained when they watched the monkeys wander on Flower Fruit Mountain during the day and live in the Water Curtain Cave during the night. It was indeed an insouciant life on this happy and beautiful land. Many years passed. Humans couldn't escape the process of life and death, neither could the monkeys. When one old monkey died of old age, the other monkeys all covered their faces and wept. Therefore, they began to worry and said, although we aren't subject to the laws of man and aren't afraid of beasts, old age, and physical decay in the future can't be avoided, and we are managed by the Yama, a god of death. In the whole world, only 3 species were not subject to Yama's management, and they were the Buddhas, the immortals, and the gods. Therefore, the monkeys gathered immortal peaches and rare fruits, made a bamboo raft, and packed a bag for the Monkey King, seeing him off to the distant place to learn the way of immortality. When this grand legend began to unfold before the people of this world, they had indescribable and complex feelings inside. Perhaps this story wasn't only a legend. By now, these naive and simple-minded monkeys and the strange, imaginative, and naughty Monkey King, who had sprung out from a stone, began to take root in their minds. He just went off to find the way to immortality like this. The cultivators looked incredulous. He heard that there are immortals in the South Jambudvipa continent and then embarked on a sea journey on a raft with a pile of fruits. It sounded like a tall tale. Can these monkeys really learn the way of immortality? The viewers wondered about the naivety of the monkeys. However, since they were monkeys, no one felt strange about the story. There were great dangers in the sea. A small raft was a tiny vulnerable thing on the ocean. If it was someone who was afraid of danger and challenge, the Monkey King would have died in the ocean long ago. However, the Monkey King who was determined to cross the ocean and learn the way of immortality finally managed to get onto the shore. Going through big cities and visiting small towns, the Monkey King managed to survive but was still scorned and mocked as a strange species. After traveling for 8 to 9 years, he crossed the Great Western Ocean and came to the Westaparagodania continent, and he heard that an old mortal lived in the cave of Slanting Moon and 3 stars on the nearby mountain of Mind and Heart. Nothing was impossible to a willing heart. Yes, it was a legend, but the deep meaning contained in the story began to reach people in its own way. While the viewers were happy that the Monkey King finally found an immortal residence, they were impressed by the Monkey King who was both naive yet determined, unworldly yet smart. The viewers had felt novel while watching the previous events, and now they were impressed after watching the smart monkey travel from the East Purvavida continent to the West Aparagodania continent and finally find the immortal residence after experiencing years of hardships even though success was elusive. Do you think the Monkey King will learn the way of immortality? Sutanji watched the monkey walk along the mountain path toward the cave of Slanting Moon and 3 stars and chatted. Obviously, they were watching the journey to the west together. Who is the immortal living in the cave of Slanting Moon and 3 stars on the mountain of Mind and Heart? Fenghui was more concerned with this issue. He's not famous. Maybe he's not powerful at all. It must be noted that the immortals and gods in the current era were well known with stunning titles such as the God of Radiant Light Judgment, let alone the immortals living in the innumerable immortal sea in the immortal realm. In the world where Fang Chi came from, almost everyone would understand the words such as Mountain of Mind and Heart and Cave of Slanting Moon and 3 stars. They would understand what a holy place this was without it being explained. Of course, the people in this world knew nothing about such things. They were still talking. Will the Monkey King only find a little immortal who doesn't know the way of immortality? Oh. Then, wouldn't all his efforts be in vain? Fenghui said worriedly. In the Kanglan City shop, the Knights of the Golden Griffin Knight Legion were also talking about it. Who do you guys think is more powerful? The immortal in the cave of Slanting Moon and 3 stars or the ancestral master of the Sioux Mountain faction? I think this immortal should be slightly more powerful but not as powerful as the 9th Heaven Mystic Fairy, others on the side commented. After all, when they played the Legend of Sword and Fairy, the 9th Heaven Mystic Fairy showed an unrivaled presence. However, this cave of Slanting Moon and 3 stars and the Mountain of Mind and Heart. The Monkey King only learned about the name of this immortal after asking a passing woodcutter. It seemed like these woodcutters would visit this immortal when they had time. While watching the TV series together, the elves looked at the engraved words Mountain of Mind and Heart, Cave of Slanting Moon and 3 stars. When this stone monkey finally found the cave abode, they said to each other, I feel like this must be an amiable old mortal but not a very powerful one. Oh. Even if he's not a powerful immortal, he must be much more powerful than us. One elf said, let's follow the Monkey King into the cave. The scenery here is great. They saw mist and smoke in diffusive brilliance and the flashing lights from the sun and moon, and rare flowers and green jade-like slim bamboos decorated the cave. The cranes spread out their wings, and a phoenix occasionally soared overhead, stirring 5-colored clouds. It was well worth their money to watch such rare scenery for the fans of natural beauty. Then, they saw Patriarch Subudi solemnly sitting on the platform with about 30 little immortals standing below dressed in Taoist robes. Before the real immortal, no one dared to make trouble, regardless if he was the amiable old immortal that they had guessed or Patriarch Subudi. At this moment, like the monkey, the viewers all stood below the platform, feeling uneasy. Even Patriarch Subudi didn't expect that anyone would come here by crossing 2 great oceans from the East Purvavida continent. Seeing the Patriarch almost kicking out the monkey since he thought that this monkey was lying, the viewers all worried for him. The Patriarch asked, "What's your surname, Xing?" The Monkey King answered, "I have no temper, Xing. If a man rebukes me, I'm not offended. If he hits me, I'm not angered. In fact, I simply repay him with a ceremonial greeting and that's all. My whole life's without ill temper." TL note, temper, Xing in Chinese, has the same pronunciation as surname, crossing. The viewers felt sad when they heard these words. When they heard the Patriarch giving him the name Sun Wukong in his joyful shout, "I've got a name, I've got a master," they were all touched. The simple and innocent image of Sun Wukong began to take root in their minds. For them, Sun Wukong had turned from a simple monkey to the vibrant and nimble Monkey King with flesh and blood. So it was that, at Nebula's parting he had no name. Smashing stubborn void needs wake to the void. Wukong. Chapter 828. Listening to Patriarch Subudi's teaching and hearing Buddha's words, learning from a sage. The Tao taught by Patriarch Subudi on the mountain of mind and heart had 360 heteronymous divisions which all resulted in illumination. Some of them were more powerful than the others. The first one was method division, which consisted of summoning immortals and working the planchette of divination by manipulating yarrow stalks, and of learning the secrets of pursuing good and avoiding evil. The second was the schools division, which included the Confucians, the Buddhists, the Taoists, the dualists, the Mohists, and the physicians. They read scriptures or recited prayers, interviewing priests or conjuring up saints and the like. The third was the silence division, which consisted of quiescence and inactivity, meditation and the art of cross-legged sitting. This division was similar to the hard cultivation in seclusion in this world to achieve a breakthrough. The fourth was the action division, which included activities such as gathering the yin to nourish the yang and experimentation with alchemical formulas, burning bushes and forging cauldrons. They were all practices to achieve immortality and illumination. TL note, even though in the original novel, these practices can't achieve immortality. After that, 2 senior brothers led Sun Wukong out of the Patriarch's lecture platform and taught him how to clean, water flowers and trees, and move and speak with courtesy. Then, Sun Wukong learned the art of language and etiquette, calligraphy, and burning incense from his senior brothers. During other times, he listened to the discussions about the scriptures and the doctrines between his senior brothers. At this moment, cultivators such as Su Tanji and Gatinian, warriors such as Nalan Hongwu, and even members of the demon clan such as Xiaoyu all were watching the journey to the west together. Hiss, look at that spell. While the disciples were discussing the scriptures, one of them demonstrated a spell, pushing a flame toward an ancient tree in the courtyard with the force from his palm. Of course, as a disciple, he didn't dare to damage the plants on the mountain of mind and heart. The flame only left a small scorched mark on the ancient tree, which was then withdrawn, leaving no traces. It didn't show much power but demonstrated a high level of control. Can we learn this? Gatina looked at the spell and murmured, "It looks not that difficult." Although the caster was the disciple of an immortal, this small spiritual spell looked easy to learn. Gatina immediately started to copy the move. On the other side, another disciple was practicing spell casting. "Master, look at that person." Feng Wu pointed at this disciple and yelled, What spell is he practicing? This disciple seemed to know both spiritual spells and martial arts. He would cast lightning bolts from his palms with great presence. Oh, I just heard that the name of the technique is palm thunder, which involves casting a thunderbolt from the center of your palm. Su Tanji looked over and answered, "Huh, can we learn it?" Feng Wei copied the move and said, "It looked easy." "That's easy, let me demonstrate it." Su Tanji ran over and copied the moves. This is a small spell, just like the lightning spells that the beginners learn in our Liuyan Taoist palace. At this moment, warriors such as Nalan Hongwu, Zongwu, and Song King Feng saw that some disciples were practicing fist techniques and halberd skills, and they began to copy these moves. Although they couldn't cast spells in this virtual reality world in the TV series, they could still copy the moves. On the mountain of mind and heart, a monkey imitated the moves happily with a group of cultivators and warriors doing the same beside him. Ahi, this technique is intriguing. Zongwu imitated the moves twice and said with a laugh, "Look at Sun Wukong, ha ha ha." He was startled into a somersault. The elves were amused by this scene. He picked up a stick to imitate the moves. Ha ha ha, so funny. Soon, the first episode ended. A group of people stood behind Jiangxi Oyu and asked, "You guys, is it good or not? It's expensive per episode. If it's not good, I'll not watch it." It's good, it's good." Xiaoyu replied impatiently and then eagerly activated the next episode without stopping. Like The Legend of White Snake, this TV series also had an opening theme song, which was called Immortal Sound Above Cloud Palace. Ethereal musical notes rose with animated rhythm. Is this the heavenly realm? The scene of the great sage, the future title of the Monkey King, getting drunk in Jasper Pool flashed past, and then came the beautiful scenes of the Monkey King swimming in the ocean full of pretty corals. Where is this place? Before they knew it, they were gradually hooked by the TV series even though they watched it just to do Mr. Fang a favor. I wonder if Sun Wukong will master powerful skills in the way of immortality and then to the heavens and the bottom of the ocean? The elves speculated among them. The rest of the story is about the Monkey King's adventures all over the world. Obviously, they couldn't be more wrong with their speculation. About 7 years passed in the cave of Slanting Moon and 3 stars. Finally, they got a chance to see Patriarch Subodi ascend the platform and take his high seat. Then, he began to lecture on the Great Tao. As a sage, his words were so florid and eloquent that it seemed like golden lotuses were springing from his tongue. He lectured on every doctrine including Buddhist essence and Taoist truths. His thunderous voice moved the 9th heaven while he lectured on both Taoist and Buddhist doctrines and even touched on Confucianism. The 3 schools had different practices, but he harmonized them effortlessly. This old immortal's lecture is excellent. Su Wukong was so pleased with the lecture that he scratched his ear and rubbed his jaw, grinning widely and doing a little happy dance. The seemingly casual words in the lecture touched their hearts, and the cultivators and warriors also clapped their hands and praised lavishly. This true immortal's lecture on Tao is indeed awesome. Of course, listening to the lecture from a true immortal in itself was an awesome thing. Their goal was quite low since they didn't have unrealistic ambitions or desires. After all, most of them would count themselves fortunate if they could hear the lecture from a Grand Ascendance Realm Master. At this moment in the cave of Slanting Moon and 3 stars on the mountain of mind and heart, they listened to the Immortal's lecture just like that described in the song, listening to the ethereal Sanking Ethereal's teaching and hearing Buddha's words. The lecture given by Patriarch Subodhi combines doctrines of Confucianism, Buddhism, and Taoism, and it included all the essences from these 3 schools and all the heteronymous, so the cultivators, warriors, and even non-humans were all enthralled by his words. Chapter 829, 72 Transformations, Cloud's Somersault, and Wondrous Way of Immortality. This old immortal's lecture is. At this moment, Elf Queen Kellybull was also listening to the lecture standing among the elves. After corroborating it with her previous insights, she found that the lecture touched many key points. After all, for her and other pinnacle stage saint-level masters, they only needed a little nudge to step over the threshold. In this Westaparagadaniya continent, even a casual old immortal living on a mountain is so powerful. She looked surprised. Are all people in this place like him? No wonder he's an immortal. He's indeed extraordinary. Then, her heart lurched when she thought of the gods and immortals who were going to unleash terrifying catastrophes in the mortal world. If every immortal is so powerful, doesn't it mean that the world is doomed? After all, this immortal resided in the forest on a mountain that even woodcutters could enter. However, when Sun Wukong was born, they had seen the heavens, and there were many golden and radiant immortal palaces which looked super powerful. They knew that all the immortals were powerful, but it seemed like Patriarch Subodhi wasn't as powerful as those in the heavenly court. After all, the heavenly court was the special place governing the gods and immortals. I wonder if this old immortal will teach more powerful skills. The viewers didn't have the slightest idea about godly punishment and great tribulations, but they knew that they must learn as many skills as they could. At this moment, Patriarch Subodhi finally asked Sun Wukong what he wanted to learn. He listed the 4 divisions among his 360 heteronymous divisions, including method, schools, silence, and action. The viewers had watched and learned some of the skills of the 4 divisions during the past 6 to 7 years while Sun Wukong lived in the cave of Slanting Moon and 3 stars. They felt they are fine. Anyway, these skills were from the immortal. Regardless if this immortal was powerful or not, he was still more powerful than them. Therefore, they had all learned these skills enthusiastically. In the past, they just copied moves from the disciples, but now, the Patriarch is going to personally teach the Monkey King? In the old shops, the cultivators and warriors were thrilled. At this moment, they heard Sun Wukong ask, "Can I gain immortality by practicing like this?" Of course, the method division couldn't achieve immortality without the support of cultivation strength. With the schools division, he needed to choose one school from Confucianism, Buddhism, and Taoism, read scriptures, and recite prayers. Although he could achieve immortality, it was like setting a pillar inside a wall. If the mansion decays one day, the pillar would fall with it. The silence division consisted of cross-legged sitting, quiescence and inactivity, exercises of complete stillness, and contemplations in solitary confinement. But with this practice, immortality was like unbaked bricks on a kiln. The bricks may have been molded into shape, but if they had not been tempered by water and fire, which represents great tribulations, a heavy rain would make them crumble. As for the practice to achieve long life through alchemy and taking elixirs, it seemed to be a way to gain immortality but could only extend one's life. After all, who could really make an immortality elixir? With this practice, immortality was just an illusion like the moon in the water. Then, I won't learn these divisions. The viewers watched as Sun Wukong refused to learn any of these divisions. How come Sun Wukong refused to learn any of them? The viewers were confused. After all, for average people, it seemed impossible that they would see the day when Confucianism, Buddhism, and Taoism crumpled, or the great tribulations in which even gods and immortals couldn't escape their demise. Therefore, they thought that the situations such as setting a pillar inside a wall or unbaked bricks in a kiln that the Patriarch mentioned were just exaggerations. No. The Patriarch is angry. In various shops such as the Jua City shop and the Yuanyang City shop, the cultivators stared at the screens, afraid that Patriarch Subodhi would get angry and kick the monkey out. Then, they wouldn't be able to learn skills either. Sure enough, Patriarch Subodhi left in a huff after hitting Wukong 3 times on the head with a ruler. Then, it was midnight, and the monkey sneaked into the Patriarch's room. Hey! The viewers sighed heavily, feeling anxious. He can't learn anything this way. Gatinian sighed heavily. He brought it onto himself. Sutanji commented, if he doesn't get kicked out for doing this, I will eat 3 pounds of poop on live stream. Song King-fing was also watching the TV series with his classmates from Alinian Academy. At this moment, Patriarch Subodhi was asleep with his body curled up, facing the wall. The viewers held their breaths, afraid that they would alert the Patriarch, and the latter would jump up from the bed and kick out this monkey with a beating. At this moment, the asleep Patriarch suddenly said something. The monkey wasn't startled, but the elves shrunk their necks. Alarmed, the cultivators took several steps back, afraid that the Patriarch would cast some powerful immortal spells. At this moment, Patriarch Subodhi said, "Since you have solved the riddle, come closer and listen carefully. I'll teach you the wondrous way of immortality." Then, he chanted a pithy formula. This bold, secret saying that's wondrous and true. Spare and nurse nature and life, there's nothing else. Squeeze the 5 phases jointly, use them back and forth. When that's done, be a Buddha or immortal at will. There were only 8 sentences, but the viewers felt as if 8 years had passed. This pithy formula. It is really the wondrous way of immortality. After a long while, someone yelled hoarsely, "My goodness, hiss, such a lofty and wondrous pithy formula. Can we learn this? Huh? What do the words mean?" Gatinian looked baffled. He turned to Zongwu who was beside him. "Did you understand?" "Not yet." Zongwu shook his head repeatedly. This, the moon holds the jade rabbit, the sun, the crow, the tortoise and snake are now tightly entwined. What does it mean? Even Alan Hongwu was confused. You'll face the elixir platform, enjoying the moon. What does it mean? On the other side, Lan Yan looked at Nalan Mingsu beside her in confusion and asked, While they talked, they saw the monkey stepping on clouds and beginning to fly. "Look at that, guys." Song King-fing pointed at Sun Wukong. FCK, he has mastered it. The viewers stared with widened eyes in stupefaction. They were totally no match for him. Then, the Patriarch taught Sun Wukong the 72 transformations. He transformed into a pine tree. Cloud somersault. One somersault moved him forward for 108,000 li. TL note, li, Chinese miles. 108,000 li is equal to 34,884 kilometers. Wow! Degrees. The elves looked at each other. We haven't learned any of them. He's got such awesome talents. The cultivators and warriors were dumbfounded. By now, it had been over 20 years since Sun Wukong left Flower Fruit Mountain, but for the viewers, it was just a short while. He had spent over 10 years searching for the way of immortality through hardships, 7 years learning ceremonious greetings and doctrines from his senior brothers to build the foundation, and then 3 years to practice Tao and solidify what he had learned. After this, how powerful is he now? I forbid you ever to mention that you are my disciple. I'll never see you again. Before the cave of slanting moon and 3 stars, the master and disciple parted. Off with you. Why did he kick away his disciple after teaching him? The cultivators felt sad as they watched Sun Wukong shed tears. But eventually, he had to accept the decision with regret. The viewers had followed him, witnessed the hardships that he had withstood in search for a master and Tao, and shared his joy in finding the immortal Tao. Now, they felt his deep feelings for his master. Despite his naughtiness and unruliness, he was sincere and candid. Like the most precious treasure in the great world, he gathered all the essence in the heaven and earth. Smart and nimble, he made the boring talk of doctrines among disciples and the long wait throughout the midnight quite amusing. Gradually, the viewers grew to like this monkey even though it was only a reckless ape in his senior brother's eyes and a mischievous monkey as the Patriarch called him. Reluctantly, he kowtowed to his master and said farewell before returning to Flower Fruit Mountain in the Eastern Ocean. Cloud somersault, an immortal legend from the ancient nation named Huaxia in the distant east began. TL note, Huaxia is the ancient name for China. Chapter 830. borrowing treasures from the Dragon Palace. And the immortal who was about to descend. He's going home? The elves stared at the TV series. It's been 20 years, I wonder if those monkeys still remember the Monkey King. The cultivators also watched attentively. I wonder what has Flowerfruit Mountain become like now? Their warriors wished that they could do a cloud somersault and go to the mountain before the Monkey King. As the story continued, they watched it with great expectations. This TV series is indeed good. Sudanji, who had criticized this TV series earlier, was now commenting, "Ha ha ha, I knew the shop owner would never sell bad stuff to us." She had completely forgotten her previous remarks. Hey! The TV series in this shop are always good. Song Kingfing, who had also had a bad opinion about this TV series, said, "Why can't it be a monkey? Can't a monkey enter the heavens and the earth and walk the great path to immortality? This TV series is unrivaled." In the Kanglan City shop, Salah also said, "This journey to the west is so good. I didn't expect it would be so good. I thought." Salah looked out of the shop and said, "I thought it was a monkey just like those we see in the mountains, but this is the Monkey King. They aren't from the same species. It wasn't our fault that we didn't want to watch it before. If we were told from the beginning that we'd watch this kind of a monkey, we'd have watched it sooner." She tried to explain herself. Then, she continued watching eagerly. At this moment, everyone heard music rise. "You shoulder the carrying pole, and I lead the horse." TL note, this is the ending theme song of TV series Journey to the West. The song is named Where is the Road? What's this? They froze. Then, it ended. How come it ends here? Where's the next episode? They clicked open Super Theater again and saw that they could only pay and activate the first and the second episode, while the following 40+ episodes were all grey, which meant that they couldn't be activated. As if bedlam broke out, many customers gathered at the counter in the various shops, including the Jua City shop, Yuanyang City shop, and Kanglan City shop. Mr. Fang was now staying in Yuanyang City, and he was surrounded by crowds. "Sir." Zhongwu, the castellan of Yuanyang City, asked, "We can activate 4 episodes of other TV series per day. But with this TV series, we can only activate 2 episodes each day. Where are the other 2 episodes?" "Yeah?" The others joined in the protest. "Journey to the West is expensive and short with each episode. Besides, we can only have 2 episodes each day. The episodes are not short." Mr. Fang looked at them in puzzlement. After walking to a computer, he pointed at the screen and said, "Look, 1 hour for 1 episode." Zhongwu and the others followed Mr. Fang to the computer and looked. "They are just short. They are just short." They complained immediately. "Can you be reasonable about this?" Mr. Fang looked exasperated. "We could activate 4 episodes of other TV series a day, but this only has 2 episodes." They finally found the correct issue to complain about. "Are you afraid that we can't afford more?" Mr. Fang looked contemptuous. "How can the previous TV series be compared with this one? Among other things, have you guys understood the Tao lecture and the spells taught in the first and second episodes? You must know that haste makes waste." Mr. Fang talked eloquently as if he was arguing with a group of scholars. "That's why my shop custom-made the right number of episodes for you each day. You've watched 2 episodes today and can watch the next 2 tomorrow. This way, you can obtain something from the TV series and really enjoy it." "Oh. So this is the reason." They nodded, thinking that it made sense. Then, they thought for a moment. "Sir, I still want to watch more episodes today." Mr. Fang sat before his computer and put on the virtual reality headset, concentrating on the game and ignoring them. At this moment, on Connate Cliff, where immortal breezes moved ethereally, an unworldly-looking immortal sat cross-legged on the edge of the cliff, while wearing a silver-grey Taoist robe, a silk belt, and a silver headpiece. His eyes were as bright as stars. When he inhaled, clouds gathered around him. When he exhaled, clouds evaporated. The technique that he was cultivating looked miraculous. At this moment, a figure walked up from behind, and he opened his eyes slowly. As a member of the Gui family which had existed since prehistoric times, Gui was a well-esteemed existence even in the innumerable immortal sea, let alone when comparing him to insignificant mortals. His eyes glinted with chilly lights, to die in the heavenly tribulation and godly punishment or obediently return to their factions and continue their lives as faction masters and elders? My lord, do you think some people are just ignorant and don't understand the situation? Ignorant? He replied with a snicker. Even 10,000 years ago, few of the mortals and filthy savages could show any powerful abilities. They are worse now. His gaze seemed to travel through the endless void and reach an unknown spot beyond the sky. Even he shivered involuntarily in fear. We members of the Gui family are immortals who have withstood challenges of blood and fire. He looked down contemptuously at the mortal world below the clouds. These mortals know nothing but hard cultivation in seclusion and are not qualified to ascend. How can they compare with us? They will know that the more ancient an immortal clan is, the more severe consequences they will face for offending and challenging them. If they try it, they will bring destruction to themselves. It's almost time. I think they must have made the right decision, right? What do you think will happen in today's episodes of Journey to the West? On the early morning of the next day, the elves entered the shop while talking among themselves. From the looks of it, they had been talking about it all the way here, in front of the Jua City shop, Half City shop, Xuanhuan City shop, and even the new shop in the East Continent. Many people stood outside, waiting for the shops to open. It seemed like the shops hadn't seen such eager crowds in a long time. I think, after some careful meditation last night, I understand a tiny bit of the pithy formula that the patriarch taught Wukong. One cultivator said in a low voice, "Get out, even the Ascendance Realm Masters are clueless, you can keep dreaming." At this moment, Jiangxi Oyu saw the profile photo of a little deer popping up on her communication jade. "Princess, I think I've got some clues about transformation, yo ha ha ha." After seeing the transfiguration spell, watching the legend of the white snake, and then hearing Patriarch Subodhi's lecture on Tao, it obviously had accumulated lots of understanding in this area. Although it was still too young to reach the transformation stage for an ancient spiritual beast, it felt some signs. "Really?" Xiaoyu replied with pleasant surprise. Yes, I think I will be able to transform before long, princess, you must come and watch when it's time." "Okay," she replied and entered the shop. Immediately, she took her computer and began watching the TV series. Different from the previous episode, in this episode, the Monkey King returned to his home with great triumph. He destroyed the monstrous King of Havoc who had been bullying his little monkeys, and then he taught his monkeys to make spears with bamboo sticks and carve out sabers with wood pieces. He taught them martial arts and made them practice each day. This way, these monkeys could protect themselves. However, the bamboo and wooden weapons were not real weapons. So, this episode told the story of borrowing treasures from the Dragon Palace. Wukong leapt down the sheet iron bridge of Flowerfruit Mountain and entered the passage leading to the Dragon Palace through the creek under the bridge. On the bottom of the ocean were clumps of corals and schools of colorful fish. There was the Water Crystal Palace and patrolling Yashas. TL note, in legend, Yasha is a class of generally benevolent but sometimes mischievous, capricious, sexually rapacious, or even murderous nature spirits who are the custodians of treasures. Wow, the dragon's residence is so beautiful. Xiaoyu was feeling dizzy while she looked around the palace, wishing that she could move to this place. What weapon do you think the Monkey King will use? Soon, the members of the touring group entered another heated discussion while they watched.